Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Done Radio Hour. This week we have a new Meet the Cast when Seamus met Jerome. Creator of the series, Jerome Wetzel, sits down with troupe member Seamus Talty, who is the Foley artist, as well as playing Foley on Universe Journey and a variety of other characters, and they talk about whatever they want to talk about. Before we begin, we want to thank Circle 270 Media, which this podcast is a part of. We also want to thank Mad Lab Theater, where we perform. This particular next show coming up may or may not be in the theater. Our last three shows have been online streaming live on YouTube. Whether our July anniversary show on July 11th will be in the theater or on YouTube, you can find that out by following us on social media at IABD Presents. We'll keep you up to date. And we also want to thank our parent network, It's All Been Done Presents, found at IABDpresents.com, which has written work, podcast, video series, and more. Please check that out. Now enjoy When Seamus Met Jerome. Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Done Radio Hour. This is the penultimate installment of our one-on-one Meet the Cast interviews. Jerome Wetzel here, creator of the show, and I am here with my good buddy, Foley artist and actor on the show, Mr. Seamus Talty, or Brendan Seamus Talty. What are you going by this?
Whichever.
Because I see your name here says Brendan, and at one point we had gone to the effort of like changing everything on the podcast to Brendan, and then we changed it back to Seamus. Because you're like, I don't care. You can just call me Seamus again.
Brendan Seamus Clark Talty. Well, as you know, I'd gone by Brendan for most of my life. Now it's about 12 years ago. I basically got sick of people messing it up and calling me Brandon. So I was like, I'm going to go by Seamus. And they're like, Seamus? Wow, Seamus. It's a cool name. Why Seamus? My middle name, you just did it 3 times and you didn't mess it up. So we'll go with that. And then about 2 years ago, I basically just kind of decided that I wanted to go back to Brendan. But by that point, though, everybody that was still in my life at that point still called me Seamus, and I didn't really want to have to go through the hassle of trying to do that. So anybody that called me Seamus or calls me Seamus could stay calling me Seamus, but then anybody that was new would call me Brendan. And so when we tried to do that before about switching it up, I just kind of figured that it'd be too much of a pain. But now it's pretty much just kind of like steeped and overpowered everything in my life. So like even now, like Kristen will call me Brendan. I think she called me Brendan when we were all on the show on Saturday. Yeah, it was like kind of caught me off guard because I was partially paying attention and then partially focused on like what I was doing, and then I was like, wait a second, I heard my name, but did I hear Brendan or did I hear Seamus? I was like, okay. All right, maybe we'll just go ahead and pull the trigger at some point and everybody will just get used to it, I guess. I don't know. But it really doesn't matter. It doesn't really bother me or matter to me. So that's why I've always said, and especially like even when I switched to Seamus and a bunch of the people beforehand knew me as Brendan, it was just call me whichever. Like I'm not going to like dictate to you like what you call me. As long as you don't call me late for dinner, you can pretty much call me whatever you want. So.
Yeah, I mean, when I was growing up, I wasn't sure what I wanted to be called either. When I was young, most people called me Jimmy. And as I got older, it started to become Jim. And I went to college. A lot of people called me James because that's what was on the sheet. Then eventually it just kind of became all three pretty equally throughout my life. And I answered all three. But when I started the show, I wondered briefly if, because I'm writing under my pen name, if people would use that name. But I have some old friends that are in the show, and I don't think they were about to allow that to happen. So I don't know, not one single person in my life calls me Jerome. If I do an interview and they call me Jerome, it confuses me. It happens because I'll do interviews for the show and they'll address me as Jerome. And I'm like, oh yeah, I do go by that name, don't I? Just not to actually anybody in real life. I don't know. For me, it's just like, as long as you know who I am, I don't really care what you call me.
Now, if you had your choice, though, and you could just snap your fingers and everybody would call you that thing, what would it be?
I guess Jim is the default, but it doesn't matter, honestly. I couldn't care less. As long as you're talking to me. So what have you been up to lately? You went on some walks?
Yeah, so me and a buddy went hiking on Friday. I've really been trying to, not only get back into hiking or back into walking specifically. So I'll do like walking around here, or there's a preserve that's in Marysville. That's real nice. There's a reservoir that's about a 2-mile loop. But I really want to start doing larger and longer hikes. heavy backpacks and all. So me and a buddy were kind of in air quotes training, and then also training together to go on these longer and longer hikes. And so we went down to Wayne National Forest, Burr Oak Park, Wildcat Hollow Trail is like the distinction.
City, state, zip code.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So we decided to do, we actually had originally decided to do the entire 17 miles on Friday. What was that? We got up at 6:30 in the morning. It's about 2 hours away, and we were going to do the whole thing, but it was so muddy when we had gotten there. We had only made it about 3 miles in, and at the 3 mile marker, it splits to either doing the short loop or the long loop. The longer loop on the backside is 11 miles. So you do 3 miles, and then you do the 11 miles, and then you do the other half of the 3. Or you do the short course, which is basically like a 6 mile loop. That it took us like 3.5 hours to walk, like a little less than 6 miles. It was still fun. It was gorgeous out. We got a bunch of pictures. We're gonna go again as soon as the mud's all dry.
Nice. Yeah, I like to hike. That's probably my favorite physical activity because I'm not big into physical activities. But I can't say I find time to do much of it. We took a walk around the neighborhood Friday evening because you're right. It was just such a beautiful day. You had to be out for a little bit. But yeah, I feel like I just normally don't have time to actually get out and do anything.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Just between
the show and work and yeah.
Writing and all that kind of stuff. Family.
Yeah, and there's always so much more to the show than I have time to work on anyway. I mean, I've been procrastinating writing the anniversary show. To break the fourth wall, this is early May, and the show's in July. And normally I try to keep 4 scripts ahead. That would only be 3 scripts ahead at this point, and I started writing it this morning. I don't know. We've only done one streaming on YouTube show as we record this. By the time this is going to come out in June, we had somebody else scheduled for June, and they weren't able to get together to record. So we're bumping ourselves up in the lineup, and we'll give you the Wendy and Keith one-on-one as the finale to the series. But how do you feel about the change to live streaming since we've been home?
When I first thought about it, when I first heard it, it like in my mind was like, this isn't gonna work. Mm-hmm. This isn't like, there's no way in heck I'm gonna be able to play sounds. There's no way that I like to be able to get the vibe from people. So at least for my internet, I don't have actual internet. I basically have, I have to use my phone for a hotspot. So I was like, man, I don't know if that's gonna be able to like hold the broadband that I need to be able to interact with everybody. I don't know. I was just very, very unsure about even just the internet working or the streaming working. And then just being in the group, I was really leery about the interactions with people, if there was going to be a delay or even if it was perfect. Even then we found out that it was perfect. At least it had very, very little issue. But it was also a little different trying to get the vibe from people, like as you're talking. And then I never really know where to look. Like I'm always looking at the person I'm talking to, but then I realize that I'm not looking at the camera. Like I'm not looking at the camera. Mm-hmm. So it was like between, okay, I'm going to look down at my script and then I'm going to look at the person. It's like, oh no, I'm still looking down and I'm not looking up. So it was a little bit of a different getting used to. After having done it though, I thought it went great. I actually enjoy. I didn't actually know how much I missed everybody or just people in general until I actually got to see people's faces, and I'm like, oh my god, there are people. There are other people besides me trapped in my house by myself. So it was good. It was real good. It was good to see everybody. It was good to be able to interact. The internet worked fine. I think we only had a few little hiccups.
There was the one big one where Nathan lost internet in the middle of a scene he was in.
I'm not gonna lie though, I hate to say this out loud, but it was so funny to watch because you could just see her. She was just sitting there like, I'm just gonna wait.
So I was watching on the YouTube stream, which is about 30 seconds or so behind the Zoom meeting that we're doing it in. And I was like, I just want to see what the audience is seeing. So if something goes wrong for the audience, then I'm monitoring that, And so I didn't realize there was an issue till about 30 seconds after there was an issue. And then I'm looking at my computer and realizing it's still frozen 30 seconds back in the past. And I'm scrambling to quickly break in and be like, sorry guys, technical difficulties. And I texted Sam later, and she was the director of the show. And she's like, I almost broke in. I was about to when you did it. And we've decided, she's going to do it next time if there is, because I'm watching the delay and she'll be more on top of it. By the time I got in there to say there'll be a technical issue and we'll be back in a minute, Nathan was already signing back in and it was fine. So It was a moment of panic, but it wasn't serious. It was fine. I don't know, to me, I like to see you all in person and hang out with you all in person. And while I don't think the delays are serious, I do think there's a little bit of chemistry that's a little more difficult to do this way. Theater Roundtable, our local theater group, asked if we wanted the reviewers to handle this type of show. And I had told them no for April. I think I am going to go back on that. We've got a Theater Roundtable meeting today because that's going to be the only theater happening for the next few months. So if we don't let them review our virtual shows, what else are they reviewing? Maybe we'll have them treat the virtual show separate from the live show in some way or something like that. But I don't know. I think it's much, much better than not having a show, but I don't think it's as good as having a live show. And so it's more of a I guess this is what we're going to do for now. It's better than nothing. I like that we still get to perform, but I really miss being in the theater. And the second it's safe to be back in the theater. And I say the second it's safe because I already decided to move the June show online, and maybe we'd be allowed to be back in the theater in June, but I'm not confident it's going to be safe in June. So just because we're allowed to be in doesn't mean it's safe. But the second it's safe, I want to be back in the theater. Take the show back to what it was. We've obviously changed a few things for the virtual performances, and hopefully we can go back to the live performances soon, even though we may just do a couple live performances and be back to virtual for a little bit after that. So we'll see.
Either way, I'm looking forward to it. I kind of like doing the virtual show, just something new, something different.
Sure.
But yeah, I really can't wait to see everybody in person and be able to act with everybody. And
for the record, I would not be opposed to the virtual performances continuing as a supplement after we stop doing them as our monthly show, but I want our monthly show to be our monthly show. I don't want our monthly show to be the virtual performance.
Yeah.
Now, the one really good positive is for the May show, which has already happened by the time this goes live. We got some out-of-towners back that we wouldn't have gotten otherwise.
Yeah,
so
that I love. That I love.
Yes.
Yeah, totally. Getting to see Joe and Virgil was just...
And Shannon wasn't on the show in 3 years.
Yeah, and Shannon. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's amazing to have them back. We were going to have Joe live and in person regardless. I don't think I told the cast that yet. But Virgil and Shannon we would not have gotten without the virtual. So even though now we're going to lose Virgil for July. So, it's a trade-off. But
They bring something special, man. Everybody brings something special, but
yeah,
it's when you get to that level of camaraderie and you get to that level of skill and you get to see the brilliance that they bring forth, and then you don't get it anymore, because they're out of town or they're gone or they've left, or it's just it's sad, it's just but I want to come back here.
And especially for people like the three we're talking about, where if they were able and local, they would definitely still be doing the show. Right. Whereas we've had some cast members in the past that for whatever reason, they're gone and they're not trying to come back. If Joe and Virgil and Shannon could make it work, I think the three of them would still be here on a regular basis. And so it's really nice to have people like that want to be there with us again. I selfishly just want you all to stay with me forever so I can keep telling all these stories.
Someday, one of us is going to hit like the mega millions, and then we're just basically going to build a complex where we all get to live for free. We'll all be together all the time.
Commune. Yeah. Sign me up. I'd love to, but I do have a family, and my wife would have something to say about that.
Yep. Yes, she would.
We might have to have a private little wing that she can stay away from everybody. She's very hermit-like. So I've got a book here called Spill Your Guts. That has 897 questions. Give me a number between 1 and 897, and that's the next question I'm going to ask you.
Okay. 108.
108. The biggest phony of all current public figures is...
The biggest phony?
Of all current public figures.
This could open up a can of worms.
I almost don't want to read it. Because we're not going to make this a political podcast.
Yeah, right. It's I was
but
like,
your
okay,
answer
so
for this can be political. Your answer for this can be political, but we'll move on quick.
Yeah, no, it's not gonna be political. I'm trying to think of like something else to pull from. The biggest phony.
I mean, while you're thinking, I would probably just say some reality television star. I feel like most of them are phony.
Dude, this is where I get into trouble because I don't know anybody. I don't watch TV. I don't follow anything. Like, I don't know who's big right now. I don't like. The only thing I know, it would either be politics, the medical scientific community, or and even like any of the celebrities that I would say. Like, the reason why I think they're phony are because some of the political stuff that they're doing, like they got their fingers in right now.
You know what? I don't feel pressured to force you to pick somebody because I feel the answer you just gave me reveals a lot about you and accomplishes the task we've set out to do here. So Perfect. If you pick another number, I'll give you a alternate question.
Okay, 333.
Ooh, I like the nice round. This is in the section. It's all started way back when, so there's sections, you know.
Okay.
The funniest name I remember is.
Oh, good Lord. Sassafras.
Sassafras.
Somebody had named their daughter Sassafras. She went by a completely different name, and she had legally changed her name. But we all got drunk one night, and we were all telling each other it was when I was going by Seamus too, and so we all started talking about it. She's like, "Yeah, no, I was originally named Sassafras as a child." I've heard that's the weird thing though, is that I've known so many interesting people that then either have interesting names or like have named their kids interesting names that like I don't really remember like any of the ones, you know. None of them thankfully are like the celebrity names. Like what was it? Didn't somebody name their kid like Blue Sky or something like that? Like something dumb.
Blue. I think, was it Beyonce as a kid named Blue or something?
I think so.
I don't know.
It's either yeah. Actually, I do think it is. Yeah, I think it is Beyonce. It's either Beyonce or it's didn't the Kardashians name their kid something stupid?
Probably, they're Kardashians.
Yeah, and see, this is my problem. Is like I don't know. Like I don't follow and I don't give two rats butts about any of that kind of crap. So I don't even pay attention. So
I will say, just thinking in real life, not celebrities or whatever, I'm sure there's been some clever names that I liked at the time and forgot. But I remember when I was in, I want to say like 3rd or 4th grade, we had a substitute teacher named Mrs. Horn, and her name was spelled Horne. And as an elementary student who had just recently learned the word horny but didn't really know what it meant, we found that name hilarious.
Yep, that is funny. We had a kid in high school whose last name was Hooker. We always asked if he had a brother named Dirty. When you said that the one physical activity that you did enjoy is hiking, what is it about hiking that you like?
I don't know. I honestly don't. I like taking walks. I like being out in nature a little bit. But yeah, I also enjoy swimming and skiing, downhill skiing. But I don't do those two things hardly ever anymore. I honestly don't know. I guess just walking through the woods and looking and thinking, and I don't know. It's not too strenuous usually. I mean, if it's summer, I don't want to go hiking. I don't want to be out there when I'm sweating. I want to have it be cool enough I can take a nice leisurely walk without dripping. So spring and fall, great. I could even take walks in the winter, but summer, I hate summer. Hate summer so much. Summer needs to go away and never come back.
See, I feel the exact opposite. I am absolutely in love with summer. I like the feeling of dripping sweat. But you know me though. I love being active. I love working out. I love running, hiking, lifting, swimming, biking, canoeing, kayaking, snowboarding. Like if it's a physical activity and I can go do it and it's nice out, I want to go do it.
I'd much rather be reading and writing most of the time, but I think if I was writing full time as a job, which would be my dream, of course, I would love to take 30, 40, maybe even 60 minutes in the middle of the afternoon as a nice break to go take a walk and then come back refreshed and
Yeah.
jump back at it. I think that would be ideal.
I think you're right. There is something about being able to exchange from a mental capacity to a physical capacity, I guess like gently or gingerly, but
Mhm.
being able to produce effort and energy and then coming back and then going back into the mental aspect that makes it, you alleviated from the first point, but then you made it easier and better on the second one. I
Right.
like doing the same thing. I used to do that a lot when I had like schoolwork. I'd get frustrated or angry at schoolwork, and then I'd go for a run or I'd go for a walk, and then I'd come back and be like, okay, now I'm good. I'm not frustrated anymore, and I can take another crack at this.
I mean, there are times I'll be sitting writing a script and I'll just get up and walk around the room a couple of times, then sit back down because I need to.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think a little bit of movement, but in general, I'd much rather spend my time working on brain stuff than body stuff.
I think I'm more of I would rather be doing the physical, but I really like doing mental things. So it's kind of weird because I've always been trying to find that perfect job. Because I've
Mhm.
had, manual labor jobs where it's like, man, I'm doing physical stuff, but then my brain's just going haywire. And then you have the other job where it's all mental, like at the job that we both had together, they who shall not be named. And then I was missing the physical, aspect of it. And so I'm slowly, inevitably working my way towards the position of both.
I think we've got a real issue in current modern society with balance and not balancing things.
Yes.
We spend way too much time on certain things. We spend too much time at work, period, honestly.
Yeah.
Especially when it's not what you want to be doing. You're just doing it because you have to pay the bills. That
Rat
sucks.
race.
Yeah. I'm a dreamer, though. I dream of a better world constantly.
Yeah, you and me both. But that's the kind of weird thing, though. It's, I guess, in my head, is that that's not a dream. To me, we're living in the dream. We're not living in real life. We have this obsessiveness for complacency and mindlessness, where like right now we're in this society where you work 40 hours a week or longer. Some will say even just between, on average, 40 to 60 hours a week. Most of us at a job we don't want, that we dislike, for money that's not enough, for a lifestyle that in reality we don't really want. There might be aspects to it, but because we've put so many restrictions on ourselves of kind of like that keeping up with the mental Joneses, not necessarily the exact neighbor across the street, but even individually, we have mindsets or notions of what we think we should be doing, or the things that we think we should have, or the things that we think would make our lives better. One of my favorite quotes from Fight Club, is you're not your khakis, you're not your car, you're not your wallet, you're not how much money's in it, we're working jobs we hate, to buy things we don't need, to impress people we don't like. We're stuck. We're stuck in it, and that's why I kind of feel like we're in the dream right now, and we're those of us that have these ideas, these notions of that we want to live in a better environment, both at home, at work, and in our communities. Where a buddy of mine, the guy that I went with hiking, he and I have really in-depth kind of like social philosophical conversation. And one of the things that we talked about is he goes down to a place that's called Blue Rock Station. It's a off the grid farm that they do all the, like, they have animals, they garden, they have like solar power, they have wind power, they have different kinds of turbines. And he goes, I've never worked harder in my life physically. I've never worked harder, but at the same time, I've never felt so rewarded by my efforts, into where I'm not working for a specific amount of money that I don't feel is actually worth my time for someone else who then is making more, and like, their company is providing a service, or, they're doing something. But I'm not working for them. I'm working for me. And I come and go as I please. I work on what I can, when I can, and I do what I want to do. But at the end of the day, I'm working so hard right now for food later. And he's like, it's amazing what we're willing to go through to kind of turn the rat wheel.
I agree with you.
So I don't think you and I are
class warfare.
I think we're alarm clocks.
I'm all for some class warfare and social change on a systematic.
I am definitely down with you. I am right there with you when I think that we do need social change. But I think it's less of like class warfare and more of we need to start remembering who our neighbors are. We need to get back to being able to sit down and communicate, and not with our cell phones.
And I think that a lot of that could be cause versus symptoms, that sort of thing. Like if these people that make all this money and pay their employees crap were more in touch with their community, maybe they would pay a little better, And I think that's where I'm arguing for the class warfare is if they're going to take advantage of us, make them stop, make them treat their employees fairly, make them pay them fairly. Stop letting a few people get rich off the backs of everybody else. That's what I'm frustrated with. But
well, I think then that actually comes back down to then stop buying their products. If we know that Apple is making billions of dollars off the backs of children in China, or Jeff Bezos is making billions of dollars because of the way that he treats his employees, stop buying their products.
But what products are left then? Because
it goes back to something beforehand where you actually have to, instead of going to Amazon to buy 50 items, we might have to go back to, I have to go to each individual website to go order the thing that I want from those people, versus having a convenience. And it comes down
in this day and age, who has time to go to 50 websites? And if you go to a grocery store, or not grocery store necessarily, but any other type of store like a Walmart or a whatever, then you're also playing into the corporate stuff, So I don't know if you ever watched the show The Good Place. I think we've talked and you haven't. But
no,
it's very much about.
I think I saw one episode. I think I saw a half an episode when I was over at Shane's house.
Yeah,
they were watching it. And then
But bringing up the show, my point was that shows a lot about philosophy and what it takes to be a good person, what we owe each other, how we should try to live our lives. And in the afterlife system, the way they portray it in the show as it exists in their show, everybody gets points based on what they do. And it's become so complicated with the way the world works now that buying an apple, whereas way back in the day, buying an apple at your local farmer's market, or not farmer, just from the local farm or whatever, would have been like plus 10 points. Now it's negative 57 points because this person or this company that moved your apple to the grocery store has done these bad things, and all, everything affects everything else.
True.
It's so hard to know what all of those things are. And so nobody had ended up in the good place for centuries because it was impossible to be good. Even the one man who tried to live his life by the rules because he got high in college and figured out what the rules are, and all he did was like live off the land and give away anything anybody ever asked him to give up, he was miserable. And he still ended up not getting enough points to get into the good place because you can't affect all the after effects of how everything's tied together. So just not buying from a corporation at this point, I don't know. I mean, yes, every step helps, but I feel like everything's so interconnected and it's more of a systematic thing that needs to happen rather than it's just like climate change. Sure, you can turn off your lights more and that's nice. But that alone isn't going to solve the problem. We need systematic changes to solve the problem. What you can personally do is not going to fix the issue. I would like to talk to you for hours, as we have often done in the past. But for the podcast listeners, we need to wrap this up because we've gone on long enough. So let's ask each other one more relatively short question, and then we'll close things out here. I'm just going to randomly pick a page here from the book. The greatest pickup line I ever heard was.
Oh gosh. Oh, there's so many good ones though. I'm gonna say okay. So I'll say one that keeps on coming to mind. That's probably like my top 10 within my top 10. Is hey, are those space pants? Because that ass is out of this world.
Oh, cheesy.
Oh, totally, 100%.
I don't know that I can think of a pickup line because I never I don't know. But the closest thing I could say to that is I've liked to say for years, I like my women like I like my coffee, cold and bitter.
Yes. What is your biggest pet peeve when it comes to people reading and acting like what you wrote?
Ooh. Oh, you're making me call out my actors?
Yeah, dude. No, you don't have to. But here's the cool thing, though, is that you don't have to say anybody. It's just more of a like.
You're going to know who they are.
Oh, it's that specific. Oh, that's awesome.
I feel like it's behavior that I've called out in the past and needs to be called out anyway.
All right.
I do not like it when people show up unprepared. We have so few rehearsals that when it's obvious to me that you haven't read through this character and thought about what their motivation is in the scene, that drives me crazy because I think most of the cast does come prepared. And, that's more than taking it beyond like what is happening straightforward in the scene. I want you to get in that character's head. But we've had some people, some more than others, show up completely unprepared. And when it happens once, I think it's funny like a lot of other people because it's led to some funny moments. When it happens repeatedly, it starts to annoy me. And I'll leave it at that.
All right.
It has not ever cost anybody any parts, though, because I will say I can probably count the time on one hand that it's been show day and somebody showed up unprepared.
Yeah.
And the only example of that springs to mind is no longer with the troupe. So, most of our cast does a really good job, but that does drive me crazy if you treat that Tuesday rehearsal as a cold read through.
Yeah, it's definitely led to some funny moments, though.
It has, and that's why I don't become too big a jerk about it, especially because those same people then show up on the Saturday performance and deliver a great performance. Everybody's got their process. Everybody does things differently. And if the performance is great, who am I to like get in your face too much about it? But that's my pet peeve that drives me a bit crazy. I like to organize and prep and be ready ahead of time, as I'm sure you figured out by now. Because nothing in the show is done last minute, except when we decided to do a virtual performance 2 weeks before we did it. But other than that, nothing.
Other than that, yeah.
Yeah, for the most part. Well, as always, it has been a pleasure talking to you. I hope the audience got a lot out of this, and I hope we didn't cut too much of it. We'll see. We're definitely going to cut it down, but we'll see what they cut. And thank you for joining me and for being a part of the show, as always.
Absolutely. Thank you
and
very much.
And being one of my best buds.
It's always a blast, always a pleasure talking with you and having some shenanigans.
Absolutely. Take care, everybody.
See you guys.
It's all been done radio hour number 240. Meet the cast number 33, When Seamus Met Jerome, starred Seamus Talty and Jerome Wetzel. The podcast was edited by Chris Allen. It's All Been Done Radio Hour was created by Jerome Wetzel. Our technical director is Shane Stefanchik. Our music director is Kristen Green. Our script editor is Keith Jackson. Nick Argenbright serves as story consultant. And we have so many other wonderful people that contribute to the show. Please check out our website, itsallbeendoneradiohour.com, and check out the It's All Been Done Radio Hour wiki, which is completely done for Daniel Kravitz's Chosen One and Morning Show, with more segment information coming soon. Over 300 pages on that wiki. We're pretty proud of it and still building, so go check that out. And please consider supporting us at patreon.com/IABD, which will help us do all kinds of things, such as keep working on the wiki, put out script books, and other things that we struggle to find time to do. Have a great week. It's All Been Done presents
Who's Got the Time?